Welcome to The Queen's Lair, a lifestyle podcast. Get inspired by our latest tips and information about small business, entrepreneurship, natural hair, travel, food, and even relationships. Stay tuned for another great episode. I am your host, Renee Patrice. Welcome back, everybody. I wanted to address the movie When They See Us. I did post about it on my personal Facebook page, but I had not done a podcast yet. And honestly, because I didn't know if I was going to do a podcast until right now, because I didn't know if I really wanted to speak on it from that perspective. I kind of just wanted to, I just kind of wanted to just to soak in, I think. It was a lot. But let me just start with this. If you have not watched When They See Us on Netflix, I would suggest to watch it before listening to my podcast. There may be some spoilers in my podcast, and I'm just going to speak, from the heart with certain things. And so yeah, I'm not going to make this too long. Well, we all know how that goes because there's so much to unpack with this, but I'm going to try not to make it too long. I just want to, I just want to shout out to all of the folks involved with putting this movie together, coming together to execute this in the fashion that it was executed. It was just amazing. Ava DuVernay, I don't even know what to say about that sister other than she is like a genius. She takes a story, no matter how deep, no matter how personal, no matter how hurtful, happy, whatever the story that she's taking, and the way that she directs everyone involved, the talent, all of that, the crew is phenomenal. And this was, I don't know if I've seen everything that she's done, but I've seen quite a bit of that she's done. This is up there. This might be the top one for me. I know she's got plenty more in her bag, but this is, wow. And this is coming from a New Yorker. If you guys are listening to my podcast for the first time, welcome. I hope that you will continue to listen after this particular episode, because if this is your first episode listening, it's a whole lot. But speaking as a New Yorker, born and raised in New York, I am a child of immigrant parents. Both my parents, for folks who are longtime listeners, folks know that my parents are from Jamaica, but my sister and I were born in the States. And growing up New York City kid, there was often this opposition with police. And it started, I think, to get much worse when the crack era came in the 80s. We didn't know what this drug was. We had no idea, what is this? These little vials of whatever, you know what I mean? Like, this was the thing happening in the 80s. And that became even more of an unrest when it came to, kids in the hood and law enforcement. Because then you had rival folks, gangs and dope dealers and things like that were vying for territory. And you had law enforcement who was trying to keep up with it all. And it was almost pretty much proved to be impossible. And there was quite a bit of unrest in the 80s, a lot of teenage angst and, just a lot of stuff that was going on in the 80s. I was in high school in the 80s. I was in high school when this particular incident happened with the Central Park Five. Just to give a little short overview, a woman was jogging in Central Park and at night, and there was large crowds of kids. That was like the thing that you did. If you were from New York, you know how it is. You played late night basketball and, in the parks and all that kind of stuff. And Central Park, if people are not from the New York City area, Central Park is a huge, huge, huge park that situates itself in actually a few different neighborhoods, because you can come out on one side of the park and be in Harlem. You could come out on the other side of the park and be on the east side or the west side or, whatever. So you can come out in so many different neighborhoods around that park because it is massive. And so this jogger was jogging that night, and she was attacked. It was said originally that she was attacked by these 5 boys. I have to call them boys because they were 14 and 15 years old. That she was sexually assaulted, raped, brutally attacked by these 5 young men. Turns out that was not the case, which DNA evidence proved that many years later. And I won't go into all the details of the movie. If you're going to listen to this, I don't want to give away everything. But as a kid in New York City in 1989, I think I may have been a junior or something like that in high school. And hearing about the case and seeing how they were sticking to their guns, saying that, they were not guilty of this. But it basically goes back to old school law enforcement torture and not giving people food, not giving them a break to go to the bathroom, and essentially coercing a confession out of these young men. And this movie basically unpacks each and every section of what has happened or what did occur back then in 1989 and the few years after that. And I gotta tell you, even when I graduated from high school in 91. I was 17 when I started college. And I'm telling you, it was like the biggest, it was kind of like the OJ case back then. It took over. If you were from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, that area, it overtook our lives for a good couple of years. You know, it was just constantly on TV. And you couldn't make heads or tails of it. You just thought, man, this is like a really horrific situation. And it just caused a lot of unrest while I was in college. The Rodney King incident happened, which was yet another thing that just kind of ignited that powder keg even more, because that was probably one of the first times that we saw, you know, with our own eyes, a member of our community, a black community, being brutally beaten by law enforcement. And, you know, this was in the days before social media and all of that. So it was so crazy that somebody got this on film, and then it went, you know, well, today it would have gone viral. Back then, we didn't even know what viral was, you know. And it was just unbelievable to see Rodney King being brutalized like that. And it also spoke to the black community, especially our young black men, about how they always have said for many years that this is what goes on, but you never see it. the quote unquote rough rides in the police cars, when they arrest you, they slam on the brakes and they don't buckle you in so that you, hit face first into the divider in the cop car. And I mean, like, we've been hearing these stories for years growing up, like all the time, how, brothers and even the Latino guys would talk about it too, if they got picked up and, taken in jail, or, I had friends that were locked up in Rikers, and the things they used to say that went on there, it was just not a good situation at all, ever. But we've been hearing about this for a long time. So this Central Park case really kind of reopened a lot of wounds. And then to have the Rodney King incident happen on top of that just a couple years later, it was just a powder keg in the community. But the way that this movie unpacks each of these things, it was in 4 parts. I think the end of part 3 going into part 4 is so hard to watch. I'm tearing up as I'm thinking about it right now. It is so tough to watch. I really have to give a shout out. I brought up the cast in front of me, and I just have to give a rundown of the cast. Asante Black, who played the young Kevin Richardson. Khalil Harris, who played the young Antron McCray. Ethan Harisi, I think that's how you say his name, who played the young Yusef Salam. Marquise Rodriguez, who played the young Raymond Santana. Jarrell Jerome, who played the young and the adult Corey Wise. Oh boy, I tell you, it was really very tough to watch. Extremely tough to watch, because it really spoke to what we've been going through in our community for a very long time, and being put on the forefront. And this was something where people got to they got to see from the other perspective, from the victim's perspective. And I don't mean the victim as in the woman who was attacked, because she actually couldn't remember anything. She was so brutally attacked and hurt that she was not even able to recollect. She had to be told what happened to her. But I'm talking about the victims who we now knew were victims are the Central Park 5. And those 5 children, young men, however you want to say it, but they were underage. The way that they were just railroaded into confessions, and even Corey Wise, who I believe may have even had a learning disability. That brother was just, he wasn't even in the park. The other 4 guys were in the park, but this other brother wasn't even in the park. He went down when they were trying to round people up after this woman was found, in the woods, basically in the park. He went downtown, to the police station because he wanted to be with his friend. He was like, they say, he says in the movie, his mother will kill me if I don't go down there with him. So he was just going just to help his friend out. He was sitting in the, waiting room and all of that. And somehow he got roped in for questioning. And next thing you know, he's being coerced into a confession for something that he didn't even do. He wasn't even in the park. One thing that I didn't know, and this is coming from, you got to understand, I was always in this news and media and journalism type mode from a long time ago. And I was following this case close. Even when I went off to school and I went away to school, I was still following the case. Every time it came up somewhere, I was looking it up, keeping track of what was going on. Because in my heart, back then, I just felt like I looked at those guys and I said, man, I don't believe they did it. And I don't know what made me feel that way. I don't know. It just never sat right with me. Even when they got sentenced and went to jail, I said, I don't know about this story. Something is not right. There was a big problem happening in the city of people being attacked in the park, muggings that were happening in the park. I'm not sure of the situation, but there was like serial, I don't even know if it was rapist or serial muggings or something that was happening in Central Park. So I know there was a big push with the city at that time to like catch this person that was like doing this, and or people or whatever it was at the time. So I know there was a lot of pressure on all sides, just to bring the crime down in the city and all of that. So I feel like that got caught up into the situation that led to this. But the wrongful conviction is even more of a gut-wrenching thing when you watch this movie and realize that all of the players involved in this conviction did not have any physical evidence, no DNA evidence to prove that these kids did this horrific act. This is going into the trial, which I can't even tell you how many levels of anger that brings up within myself. I did not even know that. Another thing is that there was only 2 of the guys who even knew each other. The rest of them didn't even know each other. These dudes didn't even know each other. They wasn't in the same friendship groups or anything. Only 2 of them knew each other. And that was the one guy who said, I'm going to go downtown with you because, your mom would kill me if I don't. So let me just go there just to keep him company. You know what I mean? To make sure that his friend was okay. And somehow he got called into questioning and he wasn't even in the park. How does that even happen? So I don't even know how that happens, but it happened. And he ended up getting caught up into interrogation and coerced himself into a confession for something that he did not do. And it just spoke to how much young people and just people in general, because the adults also in some of these kids' lives, were basically feeling like, okay, all you have to do is just say whatever they want you to say, and then we can get out of here, And it really spoke to how uneducated we are as a people, just people in general, of knowing basic things about the law and what you should and should not do and should not say, if you happen to be a part of something, get caught up in something like this, and how it's so good to just say nothing, until you have a proper lawyer present, you have proper representation, because this went all kinds of sideways. A lot of it because of people not knowing the basics of what their rights are, It is so, it is gut-wrenching. And I gotta tell you, the latter part of part 3 and part 4 are so tough. But I'll tell you this, I got a suggestion. Do not break this up into a whole bunch of pieces to watch. Don't say, I'm going to watch part 1 today, part 2. No, set aside an afternoon, maybe a Sunday afternoon where you don't have that much going on, or a Saturday afternoon with your children, with your significant other, with your friends and your neighbors. Get together, cook something, do a potluck or whatever, at your grandmama's house, and everybody sit and watch this movie. Tell everyone about it. Not just people in the Black community, not just people in the Latino community, of which this movie directly affects, but this is a movie for everyone. Please stop making this like it is a black film. This is a human film for everyone to see and for everyone to understand what we are really dealing with out here. And it's also an education for us so that we can know what your rights are. Because that was, I'm telling you, that is one of the main catalysts of why a lot of this even happened. Because there were confessions being signed, no lawyers present, all kinds of stuff. There were 2 different trials and it was just a mess. I won't give away everything, but you have to. This is a must-see film. Everybody and their mama got Netflix. Go watch this. When They See Us. Absolutely amazing body of work. Amazing body of work. All of the actors involved, the direction, all the producing, everything. I tell you, the time that these young men served, they can't get it back. It was from, believe it was 6 years to like 12 or 13 years. Korey Wise spending the most time. Ironically, for the person that wasn't even present in the park to begin with, got the most time. And the brother who played the young Korey Wise and also the adult Korey Wise, Jharrel Jerome, he was also in the movie Moonlight. Shouts out to him, because he really had to dig deep for this part. Everyone did. All of the actors smashed it out the park. Jharrel Jerome gets, he went to places that I'm sure he never thought he was going to go this early in his career. But that brother right there, he really did something. I believe he's Afro-Latino, so he's kind of representing for both sides that were affected by this. So he was made for this role. So shouts out to you, because you took us to a place that I think a lot of actors and actresses out there will probably never, most actresses, not just anybody, but most actors and actresses will probably never play a role like this their whole careers. It is just so gripping, really gripping. And like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on this. I think I've said enough. Hopefully I've said enough to make you go watch this. And please don't think you can't handle it. It is a lot, but it needs to be seen and it needs to be understood what these young men went through and what they endured, and just the unpacking of all the entire story itself. And I know that we're trying to get away now in social media from saying the Central Park Five. We know that they are known as the Central Park Five, and of course that's always going to be attached to them. But I definitely want to embrace the term the Exonerated Five, because that is, I think, very poignant and important for us to start referring to them as the Exonerated Five. So, my love and support to those brothers. And, I found out recently that 3 of them actually live in the Atlanta area, not too far from where I am. And I believe Korey Wise is still in New York. And then another one of the 5, I believe, lives in Jersey. So love and support to you guys. And, I just, there's no sorry enough. There's not enough money enough to give you back a major piece of your life that I'm sad as part of the Black community that I can't help to give back to you guys. But I'm very proud of this work. And Ava DuVernay, that sister right there, is a force to be reckoned with, for sure. And please, when I tell you, please see this movie. If you want to get in touch with me, you want to have more discussions about this, I am so open to it. You can contact me, info@onyxqueenmedia.com. Find me on social media, all social media platforms, at Onyx Queen Media. Bye, you guys.